Attorney General Pam Bondi is working to walk back now some of her statements about prosecuting hate speech. The AG is now saying the department will only go after and prosecute statements that incite violence, though that important element was not how she first presented it, saying on a podcast that DOJ would go after anyone for hate speech, could go after anyone for hate speech. Comments that the Wall Street Journal editorial board is taking on this morning. Here's just the first line of the piece from the editorial board. Is a basic understanding of the First Amendment too much to expect from the nation's Attorney General?
Yeah, this is pretty fucking bad, man. I think that the team that Trump has assembled, there are some key elements and personnel that, maybe they would be good on a different role or whatever. I don't know, man. This was really, really bad. Let me see if they get into the what you actually said. If not, I'll find a clip for you guys. Let's take a look.
Hate speech is protected by the First Amendment, of course. CNN's Harry Enton is here to run the numbers.
It's amazing. That's probably the first time they say that shit on CNN, that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. They have countless of people on CNN that espouse hate speech, that say that Charlie Kirk, should have been shot because of hate speech, that he espoused hate speech, that, I just can't even believe. The only reason they're even talking about this is because they see that there's a rift on the right with this, right? The fact that the MAGA coalition, the fact that, just common Republicans, the fact that MAGA liberals, because there are MAGA liberals, I call them MAGA liberals, but they're just people that are just not down with this insane leftist lunacy. They all know that hate speech does not exist in the United States. That's not a thing. Hateful speech is speech, period. It needs to be protected. You can't do anything to somebody because you can't physically do anything to somebody, right? Because of their words, right? And I caution that, because you can not be friends with them, choose to fire them if they're representing your company in a way that you don't want. Just feel free to not associate with them. Don't consume their content. Don't go to their place of business. Don't shop at their store. You're allowed to do societal things against people that say things that you don't like. That's totally fine. That's within your right. That's your freedom to do that. But there can't be any laws. The government cannot come at you. Local, federal, whichever. That's the difference.
On this, how are Bondi's comments getting people stirred?
What a disaster for Pam Bondi, and therefore, I'm Donald Trump. I'm just going, what the heck is going on here? Take a look here. Weekly Google searches for free speech. Get this, up like a rocket, up 186% versus the 5-year average. I went back and looked at every single week. More folks are searching for free speech this week on Google than any week in at least 5 years. And of course, not surprisingly, who's the top trending topic with free speech? Well, it's Pam Bondi, of course. People are taking her comments, looking it up, interested in it. And as you saw from that Wall Street Journal editorial, they ain't liking it too much from the left to the right.
This also raises the question of what people think of any cabinet.
The left has no issue with this. Let's be real. The only reason the left has an issue with it is because it was stated by somebody on the right for the first time that I've ever seen. She's just not in the know. She doesn't come from that world of like Bongino. Bongino knows his stuff inside and out. Like, he would never say some stupid shit like that. Now, granted, maybe Cash and Dan and those guys, maybe they don't have the chops to be where they are right now. They talked a really good game and stuff like that. I still like them as guys, and hopefully the people that are in the know, that actually know like the nitty gritty things about doing an investigation are there. I'm not seeing that. Like, I was very disappointed that they released a transcript with the conversation between the shooter and his boyfriend. I don't know why they would release something like that. Now you have people dumping that into AI and basically saying, yeah, this is not an actual conversation. Like, it seems blatantly obvious that conversation was structured in order to not incriminate the boyfriend. Why would you release something like that? I don't understand. There's no bearing on it. That was not needed for public consumption. Like, there's a lot of rookie mistakes that are being made with the team that he has assembled, and I'm not sure. I just don't know what they're doing half the time. Like, the Bondi every time she comes out, like, I'm just flinching, because I'm just thinking like something bad's gonna happen, whether it be from Epstein, whether it be like I can't believe she said that. The whole hate speech thing was just stupid. The thing with Epstein, Another misstep. Cash and Bongino with Epstein, massive misstep. In this investigation, I'm not seeing good things coming out of this the FBI right now when it comes to this investigation. You know, like the whole grandstanding of solving it within 33 hours. Yeah, man, because the kid got turned in. You know, it's you gotta if you're when you're doing investigations, you're gonna get lucky, and that's a good thing. It is a good thing, right? Nobody ever turns down luck, right? And you still want to give your people credit and say they did an outstanding job. But you don't want to boast. You don't want to grandstand that this was excellent work when the headline of the story is subject got turned in. You know, you just want to go and say, listen, my people did what they had to do. They did an excellent job. You know, now we're coming into a different stage of the investigation where we're going to piece together everything. We're going to get the prosecution, make the prosecution as tight as we can with as much evidence. But don't go out there and say this was historic 33 hours. It doesn't play well. Like, again, it's I don't know. There's just so many missteps, and it's aggravating.
Secretary, any cabinet member, when they get in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, what are people thinking about Pam Bondi?
Yeah, okay, so Pam Bondi was already underwater, and I wouldn't be surprised if she goes underwater more. Take a look here. The net popularity of Trump cabinet members. Look who has the lowest number on your screen right here that I could find. Look how far underwater Pam Bondi is at minus 19 points. Now, none of the folks on your screen here are in positive territory, but none of them are as far underwater as Pam Bondi at minus 19 points. Of course, RFK Jr. has been in the news recently, too, but he's well above where Pam Bondi is. He's at minus 7 points. She is more than 10 points more underwater than RFK Jr. is. And of course, she's made a lot of controversial comments. She is, at least by the numbers that I'm looking at, the least liked member of Donald Trump's cabinet, and it ain't even close.
And it gets to the difference here, gets to the focus on the topics they've been, the topics they've been taking on. What is it for Bondi?
Yeah, okay. I mean, what is Pam Bondi probably most associated with before, of course, this whole free speech controversy? Well, of course, it was the Epstein files, which is something that nobody, for the most part, likes how the Trump administration has been handling them. Of course, she's been a key leadership role in this. I mean, look at this. Approval of the Trump admin on the Epstein files. It's just 19%. 90% of all adults, 67% disapprove. Among Democrats, it's 2%. Independents, 12%, and even among Republicans, you can't even get to 50% approval. And of course, this just goes all the way back. You're building a case step by step by step. Who is the biggest pain in the rear end in the Donald Trump administration for him? Who is he having to answer for? Oftentimes it's for Pam Bondi. The free speech situation is just another example of that, and we're just going to have to wait and see where it goes. But at this particular point, there's a reason why Pam Bondi is by far the lowest and the least liked member of Donald Trump's cabinet.
And reinforcing the point, if you campaign on something and you promise something over and over again and then you don't follow through with it, people do remember that.
Exactly right. And of course, Pam Bondi made some big promises on the Epstein files and could not deliver.
Not so far. John?
Right, with us now, CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings and Megan Hayes, the former White House director of message planning under President Biden. And Scott, when it comes to the Attorney General in this issue of speech, to quote the horror movies, the calls are coming from inside the building, as in the conservative movement. I've been surprised, frankly, by some of the criticism from Eric Erickson, from Matt Walsh, from other people online.
I mean, how are you surprised? We're intellectually honest, right? We're not floundering. These are things that we've all thought about. Like, this is the thing that kind of pisses me off, and like when he's framing shit like this, is that he's surprised that like hate speech, like we understand what it is, we know what it is, we know that it's absolutely nothing, right? And that anyone that brings that up in an argument, we shoot it down usually right away because we understand what that means. When you say hate speech, you're trying to shut down an argument. You're trying to shut down something that you don't like, and you don't have the either the stats, or you can't battle against it other than demonizing it, other than saying it's no good, other than saying this is bad, other than saying, will somebody shut this down forcibly because we don't have the chops to go toe to toe with these ideas. If somebody's saying something that's absolutely deplorable, whatever it is, take Nazi propaganda from back in the day, choose whatever hateful thing, what's that thing where they were measuring the brains to see like who was smarter or whatever. Like, take some whatever cockamamie idea from back in the day that was like quote unquote hateful. You can tear them apart, right? Because if there's no bearing behind it, if there's no meat on the bone, if there isn't some substance to the argument, right, then it's easy to chop it down with your ideas and your information and your data. right? In order to persuade the other person, you need to have a persuasive argument. If the other argument is pure rhetoric and hate, and actual hate without any substance, they're not going to win the argument. The problem is when conservatives, libertarians, anyone that's not left states factual things, right? When you look at Thomas Sowell, when you look at Milton Friedman, when you look at all of these people on the other side of the aisle that were just extremely brilliant people, and they were able to look at a Charlie Kirk, right? He's able to cut through the rhetoric, to cut through the feelings of the other side and get other people to say, this is what this side thinks, the left, this is my view. Which one do you think is true? Which one do you think has more basis in fact, logic, reasoning? That's always been the standpoint of the conservative, side, if you want to like libertarian, conservative, MAGA, whatever you want to call it. That's always been their stance, is that hate speech, we already knew what that was all about. That was just about saying you're racist, saying you're sexist, homophobic, bigoted, xenophobic, whatever the phobic things you want, you lobbed it into their direction. You muddied the waters and you made people think that somebody espousing these views and these talking points, these ideas, they were evil. So you didn't allow people even the opportunity, or you didn't want people to even give them the opportunity to explain themselves, to hear more than just 5 words out of a clip, right? You just wanted them to just have a visceral reaction when they saw that person, to not listen to their ideas.
Saying that what the Attorney General is saying here isn't what we want to be hearing.
Well, what she said to start and where she wound up are two different things, and she did end up walking it back. That was a good thing. But there's a reason they're very upset about this and that they're defensive of free speech, is because conservatives, I think, rightly believe that we have been fighting for free speech absolutism because for years it's been the left who's been trying to suppress speech, censor conservatives, and take away our voice. And so when you hear someone adopting sort of the language of the left, even in the heat of a moment, an emotional moment, which this moment over Charlie Kirk is, you have to recognize it and say, we can't go down that road. So the reason you saw all these people speaking out is because they know what the fight for free speech means and has meant to the conservative movement over the last few years.
It's a little curious to me, Megan, why she's been targeted in a way that Vice President Vance maybe has not, and others have not. Vice President Vance, in a podcast, basically told people to call their employers, or call employers if they saw comments being made about the assassination.
Two totally different things, right? We're conflating two different things right now, right? Pam Bondi is the highest prosecutor in the land, right? So when she's speaking from a point of the government authority coming down on people for X, whatever that X is, whatever that issue is. I have never seen this before. I like to do these things spur of the moment. So I've never seen this. This is not something that I've practiced, which was listening. I didn't know this was going to come up. That's one issue. The second issue is when you have individuals that are espousing, that are gleeful, that are joyful, that are expressing themselves to, be happy and grateful, and in some instances wanting more people to be murdered. Right? Here's the takeaway. There's two things, right? There is the societal impact of you saying something that your employer doesn't like, you saying something that your immediate family and your friends, they don't like. What is that? What are the results of that? If I say something in a group chat that my friends don't like, that they find deplorable, they're going to come at me. They're going to like try to pick at me in order to have me conform, or at least to bring my level of understanding a little bit closer to theirs. That's what we do in society. That's a back and forth. That's the discourse that we have as a society, where people don't just say, I wish you were dead, right? We kind of say, listen, you shouldn't say stuff like that. It's not nice. It's not good. Doesn't mean it's illegal. If employers find out that you said something like that, then they also have the opportunity or the right to say, listen, I don't want this associated with my company, with my brand. I don't want people to think that my organization believes these things, which is why when you work for a company, you have to sometimes be careful about the things that you say and how you say them and how you present yourself. The other side of that is people also saying differently that we hope other people get murdered. We're happy that this happened, right? Because this is another thing that I've seen. We're happy that this happened, which is a societal thing, right? The society should deal with that, whether it be firing, whether it be lack of friends, whether it be your friends and family telling you that you don't do that. And then the second part is we hope and we're looking for other people to get murdered, right? Now you're talking about a call to action. Now you're talking about somebody that is proclaiming that they, and maybe the people that follow them, wish that somebody in this group of people that is listening to this message will take up arms or hurt another person. That is not free speech. That is not protected. I cannot say that I hope that X, Y, and Z gets physically harmed, because people that are watching me, people that are listening to me, friends and family, followers of the channel or whatever, they might do it. You can't do that. It's like putting out a hit on somebody. It's illegal to do that, in case you didn't know, right? Well, the only difference between actually, if you put out a hit on somebody, so in this particular scenario, you could say, well, putting out a hit on somebody is okay as long as you don't pay them. No, it's not okay, no matter what. It's not okay. And, I'm going to see where she goes with it here. I'm not familiar with her, but let's see if she puts him in check here, or they just go along and keep them conflating these two separate things and just keep it going. By the way, if you're still here, please hit the subscribe button. It does me a lot of good. Small channel trying to grow. Subscribe. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Of Charlie Kirk there. Yet, a lot of people seem more focused on Pam Bondi.
I think people are focused on Pam Bondi because she leads the DOJ and she actually has a lot of power where the vice president does not have a lot of power. He's a supporting character to the president. So I think that people are worried that if they are doing something on Twitter or saying something that the DOJ feels is inappropriate, or what they consider hate speech, that they could come after them and make a lot of trouble. And I'm glad she walked the comments back, as Scott said. I think that's really important since it is protected under the First Amendment.
Let's talk about political conventions, which might be happening like tomorrow,
That was good.
if all the people involved get their way. President Trump has been musing about the idea of holding some kind of gathering. I guess they could call it a convention. They call it whatever they want. But Megan, to you, the Democrats, I've heard talk about this as well before the midterms. What would the utility of it be, do you think?
I think it's a way to bring the party together to celebrate some of the wins that they've had, to make sure that people are on message and understand what Democrats actually stand for, not what the right or anyone else paints them to stand for. So I do think it's a good thing to do. I do think it is very costly. I'm not sure that's money well spent when we could be out there organizing and with boots on the ground, but that's up to the DNC to do. But I do think it is good to reinforce the message that the Democrats want leading into the midterms.
How would you run a convention for the Republicans, Scott?
Well, look, I agree with Megan. I think conventions as a messaging tool can be extremely powerful. You put your best speakers, your best messengers up on the stage. You get a chance to tell stories, not in 3-minute increments, but in long increments. So if it were me, I would certainly be highlighting the successes of the Trump policies. Here are the people who are winning under the economy. Here are the successes we're having on the border. I think actually in 2024, we covered the conventions live here on CNN. The Republican messaging really, and particularly coming after the assassination attempt, it was one of the best handled messaging vehicles I've ever seen. I've been to a bunch of them, been a delegate to a bunch of them. So if you could replicate something like that and tell a real story about, we did policy A, here's result B, it could be a great thing and rally your base.
I guess what I don't know or can't quite figure out is how it would be different in a midterm environment where historically you have people turning against the incumbent administration. And so maybe some of the biggest people you could put out are the very people that voters might not be as happy with.
Well, or on the other hand, you put the people out who are the leaders of your party. You have the president, you have the vice president, you have the cabinet, you have leaders in Congress. They're the ones that are entrusted with building the Republican policy machine and building the Republican brand. You give them a chance to talk to the American people about what they're doing. Look, it's a chance to fly. It's a chance to soar. And it's also a chance to highlight everyday people who are feeling the impacts, positive impacts of a certain policy.
And again, for the Democrats in the midterms, Megan, when Democrats have run successful midterm campaigns before, it has been having every candidate run their own race in their own way. If you're having a national convention and a national message, does that make it hard for Jared Golden in Maine to have the same type of message that a more progressive Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would have in Queens, for instance?
I think a lot of what the Democrats can do in a midterm sort of convention is to push back on the
They're
narrative.
kind of getting away from what we were talking about before, but yeah, I mean, it was a massive misstep on Bondi's part. Like just you can't even. It just kind of shows that she's not in the know. Like that's the part about it that is like. I don't know if disheartening is the right. It just kind of sucks, man. Like she's just not in the know. She doesn't get the ground. Like she doesn't understand the people that are in this massive movement that we're trying to get things done, and we're kind of seeing that things are starting to slow down. We're pivoting to midterms. all this stuff is going on, assassinations. There's so much stuff going on, and then you go out there and you just make a stupid flub like that. Kind of leads you to believe it's not a flub. It leads you to believe that you've actually kind of also been indoctrinated into a mindset that where you shouldn't be. Those words shouldn't even be in her vocabulary. She shouldn't even hate speech. Like what? I mean, it just shows that you're not part of us, right? You're kind of like, I don't know if elitist or whatever. You're just not in the visceral part of this movement. Yeah, man, and there are a lot of people. This is a coalition of a lot of different individuals, of a lot of different people, that are talking about MAGA. There are people all over the charts. Like I said, there's liberals, there's libertarians, there's extreme right conservatives. The far right is kind of drifting away from Trump right now, but on the whole, you still have this massive movement, this massive block of individuals that are relatively pro-Trump. There are, for the most part, very down with what he's doing, with obviously with exceptions. And there are people. That's why the movement is kind of great, right? Because there's still people. They're pro-Israel. They're anti-Israel. There are people that don't give a shit about Israel. There's Israel as agnostic, as maybe you can say. Then there are people that are, they're more Maha. They're all over the map in terms of like what they've brought together in terms of the coalition. And for her to say something like that, it just goes to show you that she is outside. She's on the outskirts of what this MAGA movement has become. Guys, thank you so much. Follow me on the X, 6283talk on the X if you want to hit me up. Please, all I ask, you don't have to like, you don't have to comment, but please subscribe. It does me a lot of good. My name is John Soto. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.